U.S. President Donald Trump gave his first in-person public address since his COVID-19 diagnosis. Reports estimated some 2,000 people had been invited. And joining us now for an overview of President Trump's address is Daily Maverick Associate Editor and U.S. politics researcher Spector. Brooks, pardon me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. When you look at really what he had to say tonight, I mean, there was a lot of "I'm fine, thank you for praying for me," and really, a President Donald Trump that we always know to light up the room, certainly when he walks in, and those supporters seemed to welcome him with open arms.
Yes, they did. It was I don't know whether you can say it was a manicured collection of people, but it wasn't certainly a representative selection of people from across the nation. They were, interestingly, predominantly, but not solely, black and brown people. They were all wearing almost to a person matching teal-colored T-shirts. And his speech from the Truman balcony of the White House on the South Lawn, or facing the South Lawn, was a combination of religious exhortation and pep rally. It was not a policy statement by any means. It wasn't it wasn't a detailed speech about plans and possibilities for the future. It was a campaign rally designed for television and designed to show that his support continues to be there in spite of all the polling and in spite of his recent brush with the virus. And we don't know, of course, whether his viral load count has dropped below measurable numbers. We don't know about his symptoms. We know very little, in fact, about his medical condition, other than he says he's feeling 20 years younger. And in the meantime, of course, the upcoming debate between the incumbent president and challenger Joe Biden was called off for the 15th because the president refused to go along with the idea of a virtual town hall. This is not something that is brand new. There have been virtual town halls of all types and shapes over the years, and if you'll notice, you and I are talking virtually right now, so it's not unheard of for people. And I think in this COVID time, almost all of us have done any number of meetings and conferences and seminars which have been virtual. So we've all gotten rather used to the concept. The president didn't want to do it because he wouldn't give him the, what shall we say, wouldn't give him the positive feedback from having an audience in his hands. And so it is now possible, but not certain, that there'll be one more presidential debate on I believe it's the 22nd of October, a week or so before the actual election date. But by then, as you may recall, many millions of people will have already voted by advance voting or mail-in ballots or absentee ballots, such that to some considerable degree, the actual voter's choice is already baked into the situation and the circumstances. And surveys also tell us that there is a very small number of people who still do not know who they are going to vote for. So in sum, the president's re-election campaign is a campaign that is in some kind of turmoil and chaos, and it is not at all clear that they have the means to overcome what is now, by all the polling, a considerable gap between those who support the president and those who support his challenger, former Vice President Joe Biden. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is on tour at various speaking spots, including one taking place today in the city of Erie, Pennsylvania, I believe. I haven't kept track of his travels, but he's doing these. But he's doing them with the mask on and with the social distancing protocols and the temperature checks and all the rest of it. So in this year of a unique election, we have a unique day in campaigning as well.
And talking about safety protocols, there certainly was very little social distancing in that particular gathering.
There was virtually none. They were all cheek by jowl, except the people at the back on the edges of it who either didn't push forward fast enough or remembered that maybe they should be careful. The pictures that I saw didn't seem to indicate that everybody had a mask on either, so you make of that what you will. If you recall, too, that the event a week or so ago that was to introduce Donald Trump's new appointee, or nominee rather, for the now vacant Supreme Court seat, by most guesses, more than a dozen people of official prominence have either tested positive or have actually had symptoms, and in some cases been admitted to hospitals around in various parts of the country. So they're calling these kinds of events White House super spreader events, which is a terrible indictment for the way they're being handled. The end result, I think, is that if you're the president, you're clutching at any straw that comes along. But if you expect to win, this is not the way to do it, I'm afraid.
And as a final question from me tonight, when you look at what he had to say, he said he's the best president to ever lead America and since Lincoln, and he also says that he also has seen a historical reduction of violent crime and even seen a surge in jobs. Do you agree?
Well, I don't agree, A, that he's the best president since Abraham Lincoln. Just for starters, there are people like Franklin Roosevelt and Harry Truman who would be head and shoulders above anything Donald Trump has achieved, and we could easily talk about Ronald Reagan and Dwight Eisenhower and Lyndon Johnson in many areas as better presidents. What he's trying to do is to make the case that he, even though the media doesn't like it, even though the influencers and the opinion leaders don't like it, he's been best for people of color. And the whole crux of that argument was always based on the idea that unemployment numbers were at historic lows. Of course, they're not at historic lows anymore. They're as high as they have been in the last 50 years or more. Because of the business shutdown in much of the country and in many parts of the economy. And so that case is weak, but you can argue that economics should trump, no pun intended, should trump image. But even if that's true, the economics of the case no longer make the kind of sense that he might like to, but this is the way Donald Trump talks, and so we have to read it as we hear it and see it. End result, I think, this will be considered a pep rally that really didn't do much for him, didn't have much effect on his standing, and may in fact lead to the spread of COVID among people who might otherwise not have caught it.
Mr. Spector, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and that's, of course, Brooks Spector. He is with the Daily Maverick and also a U.S. politics researcher.